Good evening, dear students of the second year English literature. Let's go directly to page number 142. Reading together the midsection of the page when Oliver says, Orlando doth command. Orlando doth command. Here on this page, we find part of the falling action of this play, the falling part of the falling action, in which we find some information about Orlando being saved by his brother. Of course, you know that Orlando goes to the forest of Arden in order to look for his brother so that the king or Duke Senior can find him and then punish him. So Oliver states or says, Orlando doth command him. Here we have a conversation that takes place between Orlando and Celia and Rosalind. He meets Celia and Rosalind in the forest of Arden. Orlando doth commend him to you both, and to that youth he calls his Rosalind. He sends this bloody napkin. He comes with some information about Orlando, his brother, and he carries a bloody napkin. A napkin is a kerchief that is used for eating. Okay, when you eat, you use a kerchief, a piece of cloth that you put on your chest or legs. Are you he? Are you that Ganymede who plays the part of Rosalind? Of course, you remember that play within a play in which this character, Ganymede, is supposed to take part as Rosalind. Rosalind says, I am. What must we understand by this? Some of my shame. It's my fault. If you will know of me what man I am, and how and why and where this handkerchief was stained, how this napkin or handkerchief, this piece of cloth, was stained, it means was stained with blood. What is the source of blood on this napkin, which he comes to hand it to Rosalind? And for what purpose? This napkin. I pray you tell it. When last the young Orlando parted from you, he left a promise to return again within an hour. You remember last time you mentioned that he made a promise to Rosalind that he's going to come back within 2 hours maybe. And pacing through the forest, he went into the forest, chewing the food of a sweet and bitter fancy. It means that this sweet means hopeful, and bitter means gloomy. What about fancy? Fancy here means thought. So he goes into the forest of Arden after parting with his beloved Rosalind, who is of course Ganymede. He goes into the forest with a thought, thinking, which is described by two descriptions, which is sweet and bitter. So hopeful and gloomy thought. Okay, two opposite meanings or two contradictory meanings. Lo, what befell he threw his eye aside. He grasped something while or during his journey inside the forest. He observed something. And mark what object did present itself. What did he find? What did Orlando find in the forest? Under an oak tree, whose boughs were mossed with age. Mossed it means filled with age. This oak tree was very old. And high top bald with dry antiquity. top bald. The word bald here means, of course, in Arabic it means with no hair, asla, but here it means with no leaves. A leafless tree. A leafless tree. Dry antiquity, oldness. It is very old tree. A wretched, ragged man. Under this tree, he found a wretched, ragged man. A man with ragged clothes, okay, and wretched, poor, overgrown with hair, lay sleeping on his back. About his neck, around his neck, what did he find? What did Orlando find around this man's neck? A green and gilded snake. A green and golden like a golden snake had wreathed itself, had ringed itself around the neck of this man, who with her head nimble in the threats approached. Nimble, moving, in the threats approached. It approached this sleeping man. The opening of his mouth, so it came near, it approached the opening of his mouth. But suddenly, seeing Orlando, when this creature, when this gilded snake saw Orlando, it unlinked itself. So it left Oliver, or it left this man's neck. Of course, you're going to know that this man is Oliver. And with intended glance did slip away. Intended glance, withdrawing, smoothly moving away. Smoothly, this creature, this snake, moved away, withdrew from this place, where into a bush, under which bush's shade, a lioness. So there was another threat, okay, in the same place, which is more dangerous. It's a lioness with udders all drawn dry. You know, the udders are of this creature, of this lioness, are breasts of a lioness. These breasts or these udders are drawn dry. So she's so hungry, looking for food for her cubs. Lay couching, this creature, this lioness, lay couching, lay lowering, hiding, head on ground, with cat-like watch, taking the position to strike. When that the sleeping man should stir, in case this man who lies under the tree, sleeping as if he were dead, of course he's not, she waits for him to stir, to move. For it is the royal disposition of that beast. Here, this phrase, royal disposition. Royal means the noble nature, or the noble manner of this beast, this creature, this lioness. What noble disposition, what noble nature, what is this noble trait of a lioness? To prey on nothing that doth seem as dead. A lioness or a lion doesn't feed on dead corpses. Okay? This scene, Orlando did approach the man. So when Orlando observed this lioness, he approached, came near the man, and found it was his brother, Oliver, his elder brother. Celia says, "Oh, I have heard him speak of that same brother, and he did render him the most unnatural. He spoke about his own brother who is Oliver, of course, as being unnatural. Here, the word unnatural means cruel, ruthless, that lived amongst men. And well he might so do, for well I know he was unnatural. He was right when he described me as being unnatural. Orlando was right. I was unnatural. And his usage of the word or this verb was mean that he is no more. Okay? But to Orlando, did he leave him there? Did he leave his own brother prey to this lioness? Food to the socket and hungry lioness? The socket hungry. Twice did he turn his back and purposed so. He went to and fro as if he is hesitant. He hesitated, okay? And he hesitated to move away, to leave him to the lioness prey to the lion because of what he had done to him in the past. But kindness, nobler ever than revenge, because he is a good man. His kindness overcame his revenge. His good qualities overcame his, or any man's bad qualities, any man's sense of or motive toward revenge, having revenge. And nature stronger than his just occasion. His good nature against was more stronger than his just occasion. Just occasion يعني just cause قضيته العادلة ضد أخيه made him give battle to the lioness. So he wrestled with the lioness, just as he did with Charles before in the first act. He wrestled with the lioness. He battled with the lioness, who quickly fell before him, and he overpowered the lioness. Okay, he beats the lioness. In which hurtling from miserable slumber I awaked. In which hurtling from miserable slumber I awaked. This kind of fast movement around made me come back to my consciousness, awake. Are you his brother? Wasn't you he rescued? Wasn't you that did so often contrive to kill him? You are the one who planned or plotted against his own brother to kill him, to have him killed. It was I. So it's a confession. But it is not I. I did that, but I am no more the kind of person. I have changed. I don't shame to tell you what I was. I am not ashamed of saying that I did that. Since my conversion changed, I have changed. So sweetly tastes, being the thing I am happy in my new disposition. But for the bloody napkin, what about this napkin? What about the handkerchief you brought to me? By and by, pretty soon, I am going to tell you, just wait. When from the first to last betwixt us two, tears our recounts had most kindly bathed many stories, as how I came into that desert place. So, when this battle with the lioness ended, they began having a kind of relating past events or stories. What happened to you and what happened to me and so. And how I came into that desert place, how he came into that forest of Arden. In brief, he led me to the gentle Duke, who is Duke Senior, of course, who gave me a fresh array. He introduced me to his good group of people, the noblemen accompanying him in the forest of Arden, entertainment, committing me unto my brother's love, into my brother's Care. Love here means care. Who led me instantly onto his cave. He took me to his house, cave, in the forest. There stripped himself. He took off his clothes, and here upon his arm, the lioness had torn some flesh away. So the lioness got him in a way or another during this wrestling match. Okay, this wrestling match against nature, and the lioness bit him maybe, and so his flesh was torn away, which all this while had bled. He was bleeding all through, and now he fainted and cried in fainting upon Rosalind. He fainted and was crying not because of his hurt or wound, but because of the date he's going to mass in 2 hours, you remember, with Rosalind. Brief, I recovered him, bound up his wound, and after some small space, after a little while, being strong at heart, when he became good, okay, or recovered, courageous as usual, he sent me hither to you. He sent me to you here, stranger as I am. To tell this story that you might excuse. So he sent me to you so that you can give him an excuse, his broken promise, and to give this napkin, this handkerchief filled with blood, dyed in his blood, soaked in his blood, unto the shepherdess, that he, unto you, of course, Rosalind is taking that part, that disguise of a shepherd named Ganymede, that he in sport means playfully, because it's a game, doth call his Rosalind. He calls you his Rosalind as part of the game. Then let's together move to page number 152. 152. We have another part of the falling action of the play, in which, Oliver falls in love with Alina. Oliver and Alina together in love. Orlando states, isn't possible that on so little acquaintance you should like her? How come you could become a lover of her so fast? You haven't known her for a long time, just a while. How you could love her so fast? You remember that Alina or Celia at the beginning wondered how would Rosalind love Orlando so fast at the beginning, before even knowing him quite well. A loving that, but seeing you should love her. On seeing her, you love her. A loving who and wooing she should grant. And will you preserve her to enjoy her? Will you marry her? Another call the giddiness of it in question. I am not feeling imbalanced when I tell you that I do. Giddiness means dizziness. I am in my full consciousness. The poverty of her, the small acquaintance, the short acquaintance, my sudden wooing, nor her sudden consenting, but say with me, I love Alina. Yes, I confess I love her. Say with her that she loves me. Tell her and ask her if she loves me or not. Consent with both that we may enjoy each other. It shall be to your good. Ask her if she would like to marry me. It shall be to your good. How this kind of marriage? marriage of Alina and Oliver would be for the good of Orlando. For my father's house and all their venue that was all Sir Rowland's will I estate upon you. In case I marry her, I will give you back your due right of the inheritance, but even more, I'd give you everything I have. And here live and die a shepherd, and I will leave the city, the court, and stay in the forest forever, living in the forest of Arden forever with, of course, Alina. At this moment, down there at the page, the same page, Rosalind enter, of course, disguised as an Ganymede. You have my consent. He tells him that you have my consent. I agree that you marry her. Let your wedding be tomorrow. You're going to marry her tomorrow. Thither will I invite the Duke and all his contented followers, and I'm going to invite the Duke Senior and his followers, good followers. Go you and prepare Alina, for look you, here comes my Rosalind. Okay, then move to page number 155. 155. Another link in the series of falling action of this play. Page 155. Believe then, if you please, you'll find this about the eighth line, line number 8 from the beginning. Believe then, if you please, that I can do strange things. Here we find Rosalind in a conversation with Orlando, in which she promises to help him marry Rosalind. Okay? She's trying to tell him that I can bring you Rosalind here in the forest of Arden all of a sudden, just in a glimpse of an eye. Believe then, if you please, that I can do strange things. I have since I was 3 years old. When I was 3 years old, conversed with a magician. I talked to a magician, most profound in his art. Profound means proficient, okay? Very skillful in his art, in his profession, his magic. And yet not damnable, he's not damned. If you do love Rosalind so near the heart, if you really love her, just tell me. If you love Rosalind so near the heart as your gesture cries it out, as it appears to me that you love her, when your brother marries Alina, shall you marry her? If or in case your brother marries Alina, would you marry Rosalind? I know into what straits of fortune she is driven. I know the difficulties she has passed through. And it is not impossible to me, if it appear not inconvenient to you, to set her before your eyes tomorrow. I can do that. I have inherited or learned some of the tricks of this magician, so I can bring her to you tomorrow in this forest, so that you can marry her, human as she is, not a ghost or something, and without any danger. Speakest thou in sober meanings? Do you speak seriously? Do you mean it? You can't believe that. Next page, page 156. By my life I do, I swear to that, which I tender dearly, though I say I am a magician. Therefore put you in your best array. It means gather your friends or your colleagues or your company, the Duke and his followers, bring them, bid your friends, for if you will be married tomorrow you shall, and to Rosalind if you will. I will do that. On the same page down, we have a conversation between Phoebe and Silvius, and Rosalind as well. Many characters in this scene. Of course, in this play, so far, you have discovered that there are about 4 love relationships. We have 4 love relationships: Rosalind and Orlando, then Oliver and Alina, the 2 shepherds, Phoebe and Sylvius. Of course, Phoebe at the beginning is in no love. She doesn't love Sylvius, and he is so fond of her. He is so fond of Phoebe. He loves her so much, but she doesn't. And he tries to convince him or to convince her to marry him, but she refuses all the way. Only by the assistance of Rosalind does she accept at the end to marry him. So, on the same page, 156, we find the definition of true love. خلي بالك. Shakespeare's definition of true love. The bottom of the page. When Phoebe states, Good shepherd, tell this youth what it is to love. Tell Ganymede what is true love. Sylvius says, it means true love is. It is to be all made of sighs and tears, and so am I for Phoebe. I love Phoebe in that way, with sighs and tears. And I for Ganymede, Phoebe says, and I for Ganymede, and I love Ganymede. Okay? And I for Rosalind, Orlando says, and I for Rosalind. Look how complex is this web of love relationships. Okay? Someone who loves another, and this another doesn't love the first, okay? But loves another or a third one. We have a complex web of love relationships. And I for Rosalind, turn over the page. And I for no woman. Rosalind says to all of them, I love no woman. Because basically she is a woman. And I for no woman. Here we find a comic element in the play. One of the comic elements indeed. It is to be all made of faith and service. Faith, it means devotion, ikhlas. And service means sacrifice. And so am I for Phoebe, and I for Ganymede, and I for Rosalind. Again, everyone loves another. And then Sylvius says, it is to be all made of fantasy. All made of fantasy. Fantasy means fancy, imagination. All made of passion, all made of wishes. All adoration. Adoration, it means admiration. Duty. Duty means service. Okay? And observance. Observance, it means here obedience. Obedience. All humbleness, all patience and impatience, all purity, all trial. Trial here means endurance, tahammul. All obedience, it means all respect. Try to collect these different descriptions of true love, okay, in a thread, يعني كالخيط كده. And so am I for Phoebe, and so am I for Ganymede, and so am I for Rosalind, and so am I for no woman. Then Phoebe to Rosalind, if this be so, why blame you me to love you? Then Sylvius to Phoebe, if this be so, why blame you to... Okay. On the opposite page, on page number 158, 158, Rosalind says, pray you no more of this. Stop this nonsense. Stop. It is like the howling of Irish wolves against the moon. She mocks them. Then she says to Sylvius, I will help you if I can. And to Phoebe, I would love you if I could. Tomorrow meet me all together. To Phoebe, I will marry you. If ever I marry a woman, if I'm going to marry any woman, I'm going to marry you. Of course, that is not going to happen because she is not a man. She is really a woman. And I'll be married tomorrow. To Orlando, I will satisfy you, if no ever I satisfied man, and you shall be married tomorrow. To Sylvius, I will content you, if what pleases you contents you, and you shall be married tomorrow. So she promises every one of them to be married to whom he loves just tomorrow. Just wait, she's going to do something. Okay. Go to page number, we're approaching the end indeed. Number 163. 163. Rosalind, Sylvius, and Phoebe. Rosalind says, patience once more whilst our compact is urged to do, senior. He is on the scene now. Okay. You say, if I bring in your Rosalind, if I bring Rosalind to the scene, okay, all of a sudden, you promise to bestow her on Orlando here? You promise to marry her to Orlando? That would I will do that. Had I kingdoms to give with her, even if I give kingdoms so that this takes place, okay? Even if I sacrifice a kingdom. And you say you will have her when I bring her to Orlando. Will you have Rosalind if I bring her to you? Will you marry her? That would I would do that. I promise to do that. Were I of all kingdoms king, even if I were the king of all kingdoms. You say you will marry me if I be willing. If I agree, will you marry me, Phoebe? That will I, should I die the hour after, even of my death, I will marry you if you agree. But if you do refuse to marry me, you will give yourself to this most faithful shepherd. But if, or in case, I disagree to marry you tomorrow, Phoebe, do you promise to marry this shepherd, Sylvius, if I don't? So is a bargain. It's a deal. I agree. You say that you will have Phoebe if she will. In case Phoebe agrees to marry you, will you agree, Sylvius? Though to have her and death were both one thing, even if I am on the verge of death. I have promised to make all this matter even. I'll take care of that. Keep your word. Keep you your word, owed you, to give your daughter, you yours, Orlando to receive his daughter. Keep your word, Phoebe, that you'll marry me. Keep your word, Sylvius, that you will marry her. Try to keep your promises, all of you. If she refuse me, and from whence I go, to make these doubts all even. I'll take care of that. I'll make that happen. She goes away, and Celia. Together they go away. Here in this part, at the bottom of page number 164, go on. Duke Senior doubts the character of Ganymede. He doubts her. I do remember in this shepherd boy some lively touches of my daughter's fever. She is just like my daughter. She resembles my daughter. She has something of my daughter. Or he, not she, of course. My lord, the first time that I ever saw him, me thought he was a brother to your daughter. I thought at the beginning that this Ganymede is your daughter's brother. But my good lord, this boy is firstborn. Of course, it can be, because this boy, this youth, this Ganymede has born or has been born in the forest, and have been tutored in the rudiments of many desperate studies by his uncle. You remember his uncle, this magician, whom he reports to be a great magician, obscured in the circle of this forest. Sorry. Jump to page number Ah, 169. 169. The final scene of the play, in which Haman descends onto the stage to have all these marriages happen. Enter Haman. You know, Haman is the god of marriage in the Greek mythology. He enters with Rosalind and Celia, and he begins singing. There's still music. Still music means quiet music. He sings. Then is there mirth in the heaven, when earthly things made even. Attend together, it means amend or redress together. Yani become harmonious together. Good Duke, receive thy daughter. Here is your daughter, Duke Senior. Haman from heaven brought her. Yeah, brought her hither here, that thou mightest join her hand with his, that you would give her hand, yani marry her to this man, whose heart within her bosom is. Whose heart within her bosom is, it means he won her heart. Orlando won the heart of Rosalind. Will you give her hand to him? And then to Duke Senior, Rosalind to Duke, to you I give myself, for I am yours, I am your daughter. And to Orlando, next page, 170, to you I give myself, I am your beloved, for I am yours. Then the Duke says, if there be truth in sight, if this all of this is true, you are my daughter. If there be truth in sight, you are my Rosalind. They can't believe their eyes. If sight and shape be true, sight and shape, okay? Why then, my love, adieu, farewell. If this is true, then my lover, or my beloved, in this case, okay, farewell. I'll have no father if you be not he. I'll have no husband if you be not he. If you can't believe that I am Rosalind, then I will have no father and no husband. You never wed woman if you be not she. Haman says, peace, silence. It means silence. Ho, I bar confusion. I don't want any noise. Shut up, all of you. It is I must make conclusion of these most strange events. Here is 8 that must take hands. 8. 8, it means four couples. We have 4 couples in love who's going to marry each other. To join Haman's hands. If truth holds true contents, you and you cross shall part, you and you are heart and heart, you to his love. It's a kind of song, or you to his love must accord, or have woman to your lord, you and you are sure together. Okay. We have one final important information mentioned at the end of this page 171. At the end of page 171, at the bottom, the final 3 lines. The final 3 lines. Here, and for the first time, who appears on the stage. Remember Jacques Dubois, the second brother, the second boy of this family, okay? The second brother who is well educated, remember? Jacques Dubois. He appears on the side, on the stage for the first time, having great news. Let me have audience for a word or two. Listen to me. I am the second son of old Sir Roland, that bring these tidings. I bring to you news, to this fair assembly, to this fair meeting. And consider this as part of the falling action, as part of the falling action as well. Duke Frederick, hearing how that every day men of a great wealth resorted to this forest, when Duke Frederick had information or news about that people are going to the forest and they join a Duke Senior every day, addressed the mighty power. He collected a very strong power, an army. He assembled an army, which were on foot in his own conduct, under his command, purposefully to take his brother here and put him to the sword in an attempt to kill his brother and, of course, all of the men around him. And to the skirts of this wild wood he came. He came to this forest, where, meeting with an old religious man, but just, suddenly or accidentally, he ran into an old religious man. He met an old religious man. And this old religious man had a great influence on the king. After some question with him, after having a conversation with that man, religious man, was converted. Oh my God. So Duke Frederick is converted, changed, both from his enterprise and from the world. From his enterprise, it means from his revenge, his intention to kill his brother. Not only this, but from the world, from the pleasures of the world as well, from everything. How? His crown bequeathing to his banished brother, he is going to give Duke Senior his due right, the throne, the crown, just like Oliver gave his or bequeathed his revenues and lands on his brother Orlando. And all their lands resorted or restored to them again. And he's going to give the other banished lords the lands which he usurped from them before, that were with him exiled. This is to be true. I do engage my life. I swear by my life that this is true. So this is great news. One final issue or tip on page 173. Okay. And this is part of the resolution or the annulment, in which the playwright deals with loose ends. تلك المسائل العالقة الصغيرة لازم يعالجها ولازم يتكلم عنها في النهاية. Okay. Jax, sir, by your patience, this is Jax, the melancholic Jax. If I heard you rightly, if this is true that the king had converted in the force of Aden, that he changed dispositions or intentions or nature, the Duke have put on a religious life and thrown into neglect the pompous court. Did he throw into neglect? Did he forget about, the pompous court, the pretentious life of the city, the arrogant life of the city? So Jacques Dubois, the second son of Roland Dubois, he did that. To him will I, so I will join him. The melancholic Jack will join the king in the force of Aden, king or Duke Frederick. Out of these converts, converting men, I will leave you. There is much matter to be heard and learned, away from this place which is full of fools. Okay? There is much matter to be heard. I can learn better, and you even more. So this part in which Jacques Dubois comes with the news about the Duke Frederick's conversion, and then the melancholic Jacques accompanying this converted king or Frederick, It is part of the deniement or resolution. Okay. Thank you, dear students, and next time at our faculty, inshallah, during the lecture, we're going briefly through everything, inshallah. Thank you, and see you next Sunday.